Ah.
That was a thing.
Sending data. Mixer's online. Periscope's online.
I'm still shocked Twitch hasn't yelled at you yet.
Who cares?
I don't know. I'm just saying, if you want your bits and your subscribes.
Well, I don't have any, so that's probably why. And
Okay.
I don't ask for them either.
That's fair. That's also fair.
Yeah. All good. All good.
What? Oh, wait, do I have YouTube videos of every one of these? 4. That's right, Colin didn't put any. Okay.
Oh
Shark
my God.
Master
All right,
Steiner.
super terrible. All right.
What?
You went right back to it. Get out of there.
Oh. Already? Alright. Nope, just a cat.
That is going to be a habit I got to break him on immediately. He's going after he's going specifically after the Super Nintendo cable.
It's probably warm back there.
No, it's like in front of the TV.
Mm.
And then I just moved it in like 2 different places, and I'm watching him specifically. It's mixed in with like 5 other cords, but he specifically takes that one out. What makes the Super Nintendo cord so special for him, I don't know.
Probably because it's like the second best system ever made, so.
You can play with my Splatoon case, I don't care about that.
Neat.
Yeah, okay. On that one. Right, got my water. Got the pen and paper for notes.
I'm just a hungry boy. Fuck. I'll figure that out later.
I like this 10 a.m. Sunday recording.
Much easier. I feel like my whole day is gone.
Especially with my new schedule. It's even better now.
Let's do it.
Okay. Counting down. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, come on.
And welcome. It's episode 40 of the Red Leaf Retrocast. Big 40. I'm your host, JD, joined here with my fellow host, Kevin, on this wonderful Sunday. How you doing?
I'm sleepy. I regrettably did not eat enough before this, and I definitely should have gotten some caffeine, but I'm here.
Oh, I got a nice little cup of brew in my hand right now. I got some water for later in the cast. This should be good. This should be good. We got, since it's another divisible of 5 number, which we started a few podcasts ago, which means we're doing a console special. Fitting for Console Kev to be here, right? Ha.
Yay!
And we're doing the Intellivision games. So this should be good. We're going way back to the early 80s. That'd be very different. A lot older than we're used to on this cast. That's what we're doing. Our topic. Naturally, we're going to be talking about some of the games we've been playing, been diving into. Little topic over the Intellivision itself, which I found very interesting when I was researching it. And where would we be if I didn't introduce our ongoing contest this month?
Ooh.
Yeah, if you go to gleam.io, there's a link in the description of the episode, or you can go to Twitter at BullingJD. The pinned tweet or other tweets will pop up just about every other day for a link to the contest. It is for a High Dive gift card. It's a new anime streaming site. I'm a big fan of it, much more than Crunchyroll. I just like how they do business more. I like the player. So enter that for a chance to win. It's very easy. You get multiple entries, and if you leave an iTunes review for the Red Leaf Retrocast, you get a special entry. I won't tell you what that is. Surprise.
Does it have to be a good review? Can I enter and just go, fuck JD?
Review's a review.
Yes, I'm doing it.
I would prefer not the fuck you review, but
you can't tell me how to live.
No, I can't. I can't do that at all.
Actually, wouldn't that turn somebody around by bribing them?
Well, yeah. I mean, with politics these days, maybe bribing's not the best way to go about it these days.
Fair. Fine, we'll play it your way.
No, it's just more interaction with the audience. You know, the first entry is just suggest an anime for us to review on the Anime Cast. That's it. That's how you enter. And then there's other ways to enter, such as following us on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. It's all tagged.
Did you do Dragon Ball Z yet?
We haven't done Dragon Ball Z yet.
What the hell?
Go on Gleam.io and suggest it.
I'm gonna now, because that's the only one I know.
We'd probably do Dragon Ball first before Z, to be honest.
That's fair.
We'd probably do that one in like the first 25 episodes.
There's a semi-rare Wii game I want to play of that. It's like Dragon Ball Adventures or something. I don't know. It's like a 2D platformer.
Oh, weird.
I gotta get that. I forgot it existed.
Actually, something pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Interesting. Very different than just the 2D fighter or the 3D fighter in what was that? What was that Dragon Ball called?
Tenkaichi?
Well, that one exists, yeah. I was thinking of more the more recent one. There's two of them.
Oh, literally called Dragon Ball Fighters.
No, that's the 2D. That's 2D. This is a 3D fighter in the arena. You can customize.
Raging Blast.
You can customize your own Dragon Ball Z character. Xenoverse, yes, thank you. Jeez.
Yeah.
That would slip my mind. Well, how you doing, Kevin? What games you been playing?
So you were on my ass for a while to play Dead Cells.
I was. I am.
And in December, my brother got me a PSN card for Christmas, and I bought it along with Celeste and other indie games of that year that I did not play yet. So I finally said, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play Dead Cells, and it's really good. But my big problem with it is that I have no idea what area I'm supposed to go to at what time. I cannot tell. Like in Rogue Legacy, it was kind of vague, but eventually you found clues. This one, I have no idea if I'm supposed to go to like the Promenade of the Dead or the Toxic Sewers first, and I just kind of pick one. I just kind of go and see where I end up. It's pretty good though. I will say the combat's really, really good. I kind of found the set of skills I do every time to get the farthest. That being said, I also had one of the luckiest runs of my life when I was super not ready to fight the boss, and I got there and I died, but I was like, man, that's really demotivating because I got all the way here.
Oh, well, yeah.
I definitely didn't. I was not ready to fight the King's Hand or whatever.
Yep.
So I got there though, way too early. And if I beat the game at that point, I've been like, I'm a god. That's it.
I'm a god. I'm a video game god.
All right, JBL, calm down.
So you're happy you're playing it, or you did play it?
Yeah, it's
good.
I'm still playing it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like my back burner game along with the other game I'm playing, Final Fantasy VI.
Oh my god, you're playing a bunch of winners right now, man.
I am, and I thought it was gonna be a little more not linear. That's not the word. More like one story as opposed to like 4 different stories going on at once.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of confusing to follow that. But I did make one mistake where I was going through something. I named all the characters the way I wanted to. Then I died, and then so I had to reload it, rename the characters, and I accidentally named 2 of them the same name. So that's confusing. So I have to remember which Mac is which. I'm like, shit.
Meet Mac and Big Mac.
Yeah. No, I wish I could do that, but like one was supposed to be named Joey and one's Mac, so I'm like, the one that's a king is Mac. Fuck, I guess. I don't know. And then, but the other thing that sucks is when I'm reading a guide, I'm like, who was Locke again? Shit.
Oh no.
So I should have just left
I got so
alone
used to just not changing the names just because of things like that.
Yeah. But like in the newer Final
name.
Fantasies. Yeah, and then in like 10, I knew everyone was Titus and whatever, so I was used to that. So I never changed those if they have like a set story, but I didn't know any better. So
you know what? That's a good segue into what you think of all these Switch ports coming out specifically next month in April.
I've lost count of how many there were, so I know Turok came out.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Who wanted Turok to come out? Let's start with that.
I mean, it has a good following. The first
Sure,
two, anyways. We even played one of them on the podcast, and we were all just like, yeah, it was good. It was just really long.
It was really long, but that wasn't a game I was like, that needs to come back right now. But like, I remember on the N64, you had to move with the C buttons, and that's not natural. So I don't know how the Switch one works. I hope it's left analog stick like a normal person, and not like use it. I would hope they're not using face buttons to walk. I would shoot somebody. Like that would be a Nintendo ass move. I know it's not their game, but I'd be like, come on, guys. So there's that. What else got ported recently?
Oh man, Final Fantasy X and X-2.
That was expected.
Yeah, it was, but everything's coming out within the same like 35 day span, which is quite I wonder if Nintendo had a say in, I'm sure they did, had a say in saying that these, because these aren't Nintendo games, you're all going to come out in this window, so we can focus on our games in the other months.
Honestly, probably.
That's my theory behind it.
It needs this. It needs those games because the eShop is fucking garbage.
Yeah.
So
the more I dive into it, the more I try to search for a game. It's just such a pain in the ass. There's no rhyme or reason or catalog to it all. It's just, here's a bunch of games. Good luck. You have to.
Here's Mahjong 7.
Yeah, you have to do a Google search and then figure out, okay, I want that one in the eShop. So going through a third thing just to go through. You take PSN or Xbox, the Xbox store. Like, it's so easy to find games on there. Tabs, genres. eShop has none of that.
There's no discovery, and like to find the games I want, I have to literally run through like Mahjong 7. Here's a jigsaw puzzle virtual. It's like, why would I want this on there? But like, they can boast the number of games they have, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not great.
But you pretty much have to pay attention, kind of a week to week. Make sure you don't miss anything or something catches your eye. Like last year, a good example is last year when The Messenger came out. Totally missed it. Right? Just didn't even know that it was on the eShop. And you'll never know unless you go to bestsellers and it just happens to be in that bestseller thing, but those are always the Nintendo games that are there.
Right. And they're never on sale, so I never have any motivation to buy them either. So, that's my being a cheap ass.
Yeah, it bugs me. Nevertheless, there's a few YouTube channels that I follow that kind of covers like what games are coming out next month, whether it's PSN or the eShop or what have you, and then I just kind of write down the lesser known titles that catch my eye and ear. I pay attention to those. Like Baba Is You came out this month in March.
What is that? No.
Okay. The other thing I pay attention to is Metacritic, just when something comes out. And usually when an indie game comes out, it's good, it'll get good reviews and it'll pop up on Metacritic. So Baba Is You was talked about on a couple YouTube channels, and then it popped up on Metacritic with like an 87 score, and I'm like, okay, you have my attention.
Right.
Mark that down. And then I used my little Amazon Alexa over here to make a reminder. Hey, it comes out this day. Get it? How much is it? If it was a good price, it was $15. I'm like, I can do that. No, it's interesting. It's remember when we played Adventures of Lolo on the cast?
I do.
Okay. It's got that aesthetic to it where you're a singular character, top-down view, solving a puzzle on a map that's one screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
The puzzles in this game are with words on the screen, text. So, for example, you have text Baba, B-A-B-A, right? Then another text that says is, I-S. Another text next to it says you, Y-O-U, right? Now, if you move, you can move with your character those texts. And because it says Baba Is You, right? As soon as you move it, you would no longer be Baba because the text isn't together. So it's like the rule of the board. However,
I'm already confused.
Okay, so if you move another text that says wall is stop, if you move the wall away from wall is stop so it no longer spells that out, then you can go through the walls. You can go through the walls at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're changing the rules of the board via moving the text around.
Yeah, that's confusing. I feel like if I played it, I'd get it more.
It took a couple runs of levels for me to truly understand like how this functioned, because it's so interesting that just simple text can change how you play a board, right?
Right.
Because you can say that I move that text that says wall over to the Baba is you sentence, and I push it. Instead, I push it, changing from Baba is you to wall is you. Your character now is the wall, so you're moving the walls around.
Okay, that sounds weird, but
yeah, it's pretty wild. And there's always a text that says something is goal or something is win, and that's how you beat that particular board. It's a really interesting and just very chill game. And then there's been a couple where I just kind of stare and I go, how do I make this function?
That sounds confusing. I just gotta see it be played, I guess.
Yeah, I do recommend it. It's very simple. It's definitely getting kind of the scores it deserves. Because at the end of the day, it is a small little indie title. I can't wait to talk about it more on the Modern Gamecast. So definitely go check that out in probably a week or so. It'll be out over Games from March.
Speaking of modern/retro games, there was another game I played that you were on my ass about. That Bloodstained little thing.
Yeah, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon.
Yeah. So that was fine. It was pretty good, I should say. But I started playing on veteran, and it wasn't like too hard or anything. But I was like, well, the life system in games I think is kind of dumb. So I put it on casual because I was just like, well, whatever. But the thing that's dumb is like, if it's on casual, it still wants you to kill off the 4 characters before you get them back. I was like, well, this seems kind of pointless now. So I feel like they could have fixed that.
Kill them off?
So like if you're playing on casual, you have unlimited lives overall, right?
Per stage, sort of, yeah. You still lose a character.
Well, right, you lose a character, but I'm like, well, if there's no real like game over purpose, I still have to kill the first character, second, third, fourth before it's like, all right, I have them all again. I should just got them all back. I don't know. It seems kind of like an extra step for me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it was kind of dumb.
The difference between the casual and veteran was simply the old Castlevania type rules, where if you die 3 times, then you start the whole level over, as opposed to you just start from that point again until you run out of characters that you're using.
Right.
Which I think is hand in hand pretty fair.
It was fair. And then you don't do the knockback, which is like the worst part of Castlevania. So I was like, all right, take that off.
That was the best part of casual. I played it.
Yeah.
I played on both modes, and I was thinking to myself, casual is not that much harder. It just doesn't have the whole back hit or knockback, as you said. So
it took away the worst parts of Castlevania.
It took away the worst part of those old NES games. I wasn't feeling it, so I'm like, this level knockback, I don't think so.
So yeah, that was a fun game. It only took me like an hour to beat though, so that was kind of disappointing. I kind of wanted to last longer.
I mean, I got a good 4 hours out of a $10 game. That's not bad at all.
Yeah,
an hour and a half on casual, 3 hours on veteran.
Yeah, so it was neat. I upset I spent $20, I think, on it or something. I was like,
20
sucks. Well, how much? It must have been 20. I bought the Switch version by mistake, so it could have been 20.
No, it's $10.
Is it 10? Maybe it's 10. I don't know.
It's $10.
Might have been 10. Either way, I
Dead
accidentally
Cells
bought it on Switch and I was
20.
upset. Yeah. Dead Cells was, yeah, 20. You're right.
I know these things.
Whatever. Math.
I got Devil May Cry 5 and Sekiro also this month, so I've been diving into those two my free time.
Japan Souls.
And not that I have seemingly infinite amount of free time anymore. I just started my new stable job, so I gotta allocate time accordingly, kind of readjust everything, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you know, normal life type stuff.
Yeah. Been there, living it, hating it, kill me.
I mean, it's fine. I just, you know, if I'm watching a wrestling show, sometimes if I can't watch just one thing dedicated to 3 hours. I find myself now dual screening, particularly getting it to match up with matches I don't care about, kind of deal. Or okay, this is uninteresting, you know, just ignore that. Put on another match. Listening to a podcast, playing a game at the same time. It's kind of multitasking, really, but just allocating time.
Good luck when WrestleMania happens.
Oh, it's gonna
be a long card.
If that shit is gonna be 8+ hours, like the rumors are saying, that is gonna be a fucking 4-day watch. I'm not watching that in one sitting. There's no way. I probably even like I'll watch it. I'll start watching it the next day, and if there's this many matches, I'll probably just be like, no, I'm good. Like, just tell me what happened. Well, I'm definitely not watching it. I'm definitely not watching it day of. Right. What I'm gonna do is wait for it to come out on like a pirate site or something. And then, because you know there's just going to be constant advertisements and, you know, whatevers, skip through all that. Right? That'll save you like an hour right there. Yeah, I'm not watching the Battle Royale. I don't give a shit. I really care about 2 matches. Actually 3. I care about 3 matches right now. All right, well, that's going to be saved for the wrestling cast, being recorded later. But yeah, Devil May Cry 5. We were on record being real worried about the rumors of microtransactions being in the game, and yeah, they're in the game, but they're just kind of shoehorned in. Don't really mean anything. Mm-hmm. It does have that pay-to-win model of getting your blood orbs, right? And then you can just get upgrades and stuff accordingly. But nothing's like locked out behind the microtransactions, which was our main concern. Good. Right. The game is fucking fantastic. I love it. I was shocked it was good. Yeah. I didn't buy it day one. I was very scared of it. I was very, very hesitant. Especially when the reviews came out after it was released. There's always that. There's been that kind of rule where if a game has reviews coming out days before its release, it's usually a good sign, right? Normally. It's usually like this company has confidence in its product. Well, Devil May Cry 5, if I was to describe this game in one word, it's style. Yeah, that's how they all are now. Well, this one kind of ramps it up to an 11 kind of situation. Get certain upgrades. I won't spoil like what happens exactly, but there's some dancing involved. I saw that. I saw the GIF, and I was like, "All right, okay." You have my attention. Game's okay. You can fight with a like a motorcycle cut in half. It's just real goofy. They ramped up the new character is very nice. Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's back to form. It reminds me of why I liked 1 and 3 so much, and not 2 and 4 so much. I have to play 2. No, you don't. That's the worst one. But I want to know what happens. Nothing happens. Oh, all right then. Devil May Cry 5 also has a like a recap section of all the other games. You can just go through that and learn the lore and universe and story up to date. You don't even have to play the other ones, which is very nice. Well, yeah. Maybe I'll just look up the synopsis of the 2 and be like, got it. And then Sekiro just came in Friday. Came out. you're not the From Software fan. I know.
I will have zero play of that.
So you will be. It's probably a little bit on the too hard side for you.
That's not why I hate those games. First
Why do you
off,
hate them then?
I hate they're badly designed. I don't like the menu that I can accidentally open, walk around, but I can't attack because the menu's like up in the corner in the screen. I'm like, oh, the menu's open, but I can walk around like an idiot. I fucking hate having to talk to characters 5 times before they go, oh, here's the information you needed. Like, I think that's bad game design, and I don't think people just going, get good legitimizes it. That's not the fucking point. That doesn't make the game better just because you want a massive, like, say, I got a big dick. I've played harder games. I think Dark Souls is badly designed.
What about Bloodborne?
I've never played it, and I have no motivation to give it a try.
Well,
like,
Sekiro,
I like Demon Souls.
You like Demon Souls?
Demon Souls was fine. I like the hub world. They had a straight point. Dark Souls is just fuck it. Go ring these bells. I don't fucking know. Whatever.
I do remember that one.
Yeah.
I am proud to say, even for people like you that aren't fans of Souls games, Sekiro is nothing like that. It has the aesthetic and feel to, a From Software game, right? Like all their games are. The implementation of the grappling hook and using tools is what separates it. If anything, I compare this game to Tenchu. Remember Tenchu, which we played for the cast not too long ago?
I do. Mm-hmm.
It's a lot like that, where there's a little bit of stealth element to kind of scope out the map, and then you pick people off one by one, leaving like the strongest enemy for last, and then you take him on 1v1. And each one kind of functions as a boss battle, and then you get the real big boss battle later. It doesn't have the same death system as Bloodborne and Souls, and in a way it's way better and easier. The death system punishes your skill tree experience.
There you are.
So you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
Okay.
I must have lost in there or something.
All right.
But
so Sekiro plays a lot faster. You can't play it the same as a Bloodborne or Dark Souls. It's just a different game with the aesthetic of the From Software game. Yes, it's hard, and it takes practice, and there's nothing wrong with practice. You just can't play it the same way, and I think that's where a lot of people are saying this game is much harder, because everyone's so used to playing a game from these people one way, right? Just can't be in that mindset. Yeah, that's something I had to learn the hard way. There's the Kevin, you're gonna love this. There's an ogre that you come across like in the first couple hours, right?
Tell me what he says, please.
Well, he just kind of grunts and yells, but he's like Andre the Giant on crack.
I thought you were to say, "What are you doing in my swamp?"
No, he's at the top of this hill, and he busts out of his chains and his wooden restraints, and he kind of charges at you, and he grabs you, and he'll either chokeslam you or powerbomb you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when I died the first like 3 times on him, I'm just like, I feel like I'm in a wrestling match and I just can't beat Andre the Giant.
I mean, it's fair. Can you body slam him?
Can I body slam him?
No, just your character. I mean,
well, he has a body slam. He has a running drop kick attack as well. This ogre. It's pretty fantastic. So a lot of the grunt enemies are kind of the same, but each individual kind of each map is different, which keeps the game fresh. So I'm loving it. It's just really hard. I just need to practice and get better at it and learn different skills. So it's really fun. I recommend it.
I'll watch somebody play it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to, even after you like watch some videos, Kevin, what you think of the game exactly. Even if it's not for you, I'd curious about your thoughts over how the game plays.
I'll give it a look, but honestly, I think since Demon Souls, From Software has just made the same game, like over and over. But but that's me.
The aesthetic and loop is the same. I don't deny that. But that's like Ubisoft. Think Ubisoft. Their little open sandbox tower thing across different games. Yes, it's the same loop and formula, but they kind of manipulate it in different ways for different games.
Difference being I like those. That's the only difference. It's not wrong. It's just I find something satisfying about those, whereas with the Souls, and I'm just like, okay, yep. It's hard. I get it.
How do you feel about Demon's Souls being remastered?
Sure, I guess. Honestly, no opinion.
It's becoming a pretty rare game on the PS3. I'm glad I got it when I did.
I haven't. I should just sell it off, honestly. I'm not going to play it again.
Aw, keep it for value. I'm liking From Software between them, Ninja Theory. Yes, I'll say Ubisoft. There's something about their formula I just enjoy. I just wish this live service and microtransaction thing would deplete, or at least get less so.
Yeah.
In Capcom's gaining points with me in a hurry. After their fighting games, I still won't touch them. Street Fighter, I'll never get another game again. Street Fighter. But
yeah, I bought it and I regret things.
Yeah, but with Monster Hunter World last year, Resident Evil 2 remake in January, and now Devil May Cry 5, I think Mega Man 11, Capcom's in my good graces again.
They're getting there. They're coming back around.
I'm pleasantly surprised. Ubisoft. Ubisoft's on thin ice, unfortunately. So,
they're fine. You hate on my French Canadians.
I'm trying to think what was the last Ubisoft game I truly enjoyed, and I want to say it was Origins. And then I had my reservations about it.
Whack.
Anyways, let's move on to our topic, shall we? Unless you got something else you want to bring up?
No, other thing. I started playing Infamous again because the girlfriend wanted to play it. Oh, I think we dropped We Happy Few. I'm done.
How far did you get?
It's just, I don't even know, because it's just so much shit to design that game to such a flaw, and I don't even know how to describe it. It started out the hour of that game is fucking great, and you're sucked in. And it just becomes don't forget to take your joy, but if you take too much joy, you go through withdrawal. And if you get withdrawal, everyone knows you're sick, and then they beat the shit out of you. But you got to make sure you're wearing the right clothes, because otherwise it doesn't matter if you take your joy.
I remember.
So then I'm like, fuck, dude. It just doesn't end. And
it's a bad loop.
That game should have just been it's just a bad everything.
It should have been a linear story.
Yeah. So we switched over to Infamous, and I'm letting her make moral choices. But other than that, that's it. So neat.
I like Infamous. I like that series. I think it's my best friend's first or second favorite series. Loves them. Anyways. All right, where are we at here? Cool. All right. I'll play this thing. Move on.
This thing.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Kevin.
Hey. Stuff.
Ready to talk about Intellivision?
No.
So before we talk about the Intellivision, you have been very adamant about hating at least the games we played. Not spoiling the games we played, but what was it about your experience with the Intellivision here that you just didn't enjoy?
So it's not exclusive to the Intellivision. I feel the same way about Atari and ColecoVision. I just anything pre-NES. If I grew up in this time, I would not be into video games, because it's just not enough for me. It's literally dots vaguely doing something on a screen, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And it's not clear what to do. Sometimes you got to press other buttons to get the game started that don't make sense. It's
we'll definitely get into all that. So
yeah, I can't do it.
so what was the Intel? It's all fair points, and we'll get into it. You kind of got to take a step back and realize the era when you look at the Atari, the Coleco, the Intellivision, even the Commodore 64. Those four things of the early 80s were very it was a new thing, right? So here we go. What was the Intellivision? Well, the Intellivision was marketed as intelligent television that would be both educational as it would be entertaining. And quickly, it was realized that the entertainment part was the more marketable and profitable part. So they kind of quickly dropped the educational, because that's what the Intellivision had two main peripherals. It was the IntelliVoice, which was a voice modulator, so you can put voice into some games. There was only about 5 that used it. Then there was a keyboard module, function like a computer keyboard, and that would be for the more educational game, right? Particularly, it would teach computer programming, which is an interesting thought for the early 80s. Intellivision was owned and operated by Mattel Electronics. Remember those guys?
They're still around.
Yeah, the toy company, essentially. Yeah. So the Intellivision was one of 2 main competitors to specifically the Atari 2600, which came out in the late 70s. So released in 1980, had a nice little wood structure because, of course, it did. That was the time. Everything had to have that wood graining, right?
Wood fucking everything.
The wood paneling on cars, the wood paneling on your walls in your home.
We should get it back. We should bring back the wood paneling.
Everything. So, yeah, Mattel Electronics came out with the Intellivision in order to compete with the market, because it was a booming market at the time, thanks to Atari specifically, I would say. It sold 3 million units in its first 3 years and made games all the way up from 1980 to 1990. That's your standard 10-year lifespan, if not more so, right? That's a long time, considering the NES and the Genesis came out at that tail end, right?
I didn't realize it went on for so long. I thought it was only a couple year span.
Well, I mean, its first 3 years were its main years, right?
Yeah.
Then you had the video game crash in 82, right? 83 was the crux of the video game crash.
Right.
So 3 million units. And how many units did the Wii U sell in its first 3 years?
500,000 maybe. It's probably more than that. I would assume I would say it's like 2 million. Because it only topped out at 12.
Yeah, it only topped out at 12. So I'm very curious about it.
I'm gonna say 3.
Let's see here. The Wii sold 7 million. End of 2000. So the Wii sold 7 million in its first year, and the Wii U sold 460,000. So we're kind of on pace for that 3 million as well. So the Wii U, considering, didn't sell well, while the Intellivision sold extremely well to a much smaller market, right? So it's pretty incredible. That's how successful the Intellivision was at the time. That kind of comparison just popped into my head. That's why I had to look it up. So
I'm trying to see if you have it on here, but the other marketing point that it was like supposed to be the more mature system compared to the Atari, like it was going for an older market with like a bunch of sports games.
Well, it had a deal specifically with Activision, and Activision had the license for like NFL, MLB, those things. Yes, that's true. Yeah, so it's interesting. So what makes the Intellivision very interesting was there would be a couple things that the Intellivision would do. The programmers of the games would either blatantly copy other popular games, specifically from Atari, that were already released and successful. So you'd see a lot of like Pac-Man knockoffs, Asteroids, you know, all those games, right? Or they would go with their gut feelings, as a few programmers would speak out, for what would make a good game. So they'd have a writer, they would have a programmer, and then they'd have a designer on a lot of these games, right? But there was no industry standard on how to make games. And what made Intellivision different was Mattel wanted into this market so bad, and their system sold well so fast, that they basically had to hire a bunch of 20-year-olds fresh out of college with computer programming degrees, and they would just work for Mattel, right? Because when Mattel first came out with the Intellivision, there was like 5 dudes in '79, and at its launch, 5 dudes made all the Intellivision games. It's like first 6 months, and then they just go, "We gotta hire
heroes." People. How else are we gonna clone Pac-Man?
Yeah, so
in asteroids.
That was very interesting to read, and there was a little video game crash book that I have, and I was kind of flipping through it, and a lot of the programmers for Intellivision, those 20-year-olds, said they had to basically live, breathe, and work at Mattel in a cramped office building, and they said it was just like living in the dorms of their old college. So because they would all just they would party hard at night and then work their ass off during the day, so they would live, breathe, and work Mattel.
To be fair, they could have easily not partied all night, so that's on them. Like, they could have gone home and slept.
Kevin, I said your wrong name.
How dare you?
Think of this. This is the late 70s, early 80s time frame. You can't not party, right? That's not a thing you can't do.
I guess. Maybe if they had better video games to burn.
So, in 1984, the no industry standard is definitely a point we're going to be hitting a lot today. In 1984, the video game market was in just full crash mode, right? Where it's fucked, right, at this point. Mattel Electronics was in deep losses. I mean, we're talking, they had all these hiring all these 20-year-olds. They went from 5 to like over 1,800 people at its peak in '82, with 3 divisions, which we'll get into here in a second. So the losses got so bad that former vice president, a guy named Valesi, got some other investors, and he himself bought the Intellivision rights just for him. And that's when the name changed to INTV Corporation, just to play on Intellivision itself. So it kind of dropped the whole Mattel part of it and made Intellivision by itself.
Right.
You know. So
I remember that in the video game years. They went over a bunch of that. Good series to check out, by the way, people.
Who?
You ever heard of Retroware TV?
No.
Back in the day? Great documentary series. You can learn a lot about Intellivision at the time. Cool.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So there would be 3 console versions of the Intellivision came out, with a 4th being developed, but it was never released. You had your standard wood paneling first one. You had your Model 2, which would have the optional system changer module, this is cool. You have this system changer module so you could play Atari 2600 games and use their controllers.
I thought that was only a ColecoVision thing.
No, you can get the Model 2 Intellivision and do that.
Oh, see, that's more famous on the ColecoVision.
Yeah, well, the Model 2 Intellivision wasn't all that great because it dropped the wood paneling and the bubble buttons on the controller.
Well, what the fuck? I came here for wood paneling.
Well, so, you know, it's little bronze wood paneling structure and its little moving disc on the controller. We'll get into the controller in a second.
Controller.
But you had the bubble buttons, so, you know, as difficult as it was to try and figure out this controller, you could at least get a feel for how a game would work. Well, the Model 2 controller had a like a plain overlay of its buttons, so the bubble, you couldn't feel for the bubbles anymore. So think of the best way I can describe it is playing a game on your cell phone with a button overlay.
Kill me.
Right? It didn't work so well, and that's why the Model 2 wasn't received as good. But a lot of people got it because they could play Atari games. They got the module. System change. So
it's weird that they always went with the phone pad when it came to Coleco and Intellivision, and they're thinking why they did that was interesting, but also stupid. They decided that people know how phones work, and they know that layout, so they'll easily translate to playing this.
Well, there was two reasons. People know how phones work, and people know their TV controller.
Yes, that's right. That was the other one.
That's the other thing. So
man, did it not work.
Mattel, and for the people that didn't, and Mattel knew this, that they didn't like the new controller for the Model 2.
Mm-hmm.
So they offered for people to send in their Model 1 Intellivisions, and they would you would pay like an extra X amount of dollars, and they would mod your console so it could get the system changer module installed into it.
That seems like a weird legal loophole, but okay.
Well, I mean, times were different.
Not legal, I guess. I guess like trying to get away.
So think of. I was thinking about this. Think of like the new PS4 Slim model, right? Okay. Say that you want this new chip, this new GPU system, or you want your hard drive upgraded, right? PlayStation offered you you could send, instead of buying the Slim, you could send in your PlayStation yourself. So instead of paying for a whole new console, you just send in your PlayStation to them. They just change out the parts for you and send it back to you for a nominal fee. Look, how many people would actually do that? I'd be very curious.
I'm going to tell you probably not a lot. And there's actually a pretty, not equivalent, but a modern scenario that was like that. So do you remember when Skyward Sword came out?
Sure.
There was a game-breaking glitch in Skyward Sword that had something to do with the Wii system that I can't exactly remember.
That's like one of the few downloadable patches that the Wii had.
Well, before they figured out how to make that work, because Nintendo, you actually had to send your Wii in, and they would do something to it to make it where Skyward Sword wouldn't brick your Wii. And I guarantee you, not a lot of people did that. I would say it's definitely under 1 million. Because you'd have to know that.
I don't know if that's the same thing, because that's for one game, as opposed to giving the option to play more games.
But if you didn't know about it from a magazine, you're not going to do that, you know? And if you tell your parents, we got to ship our Intellivision, they'll be like, fuck you, it's like $20 to ship that, kid.
I looked in some Intellivision like history guides, and I couldn't find any stats on how many people actually sent their Model 2 in to get that, or their Model 1 in to get the module installation. I think I would have done that, honestly. If I was such a fan of the design of the first one and not wanted the Model 2, I would do that, because Atari games were top. Those were the top of the line stuff, right? Those are the ones selling. Those were the good games. Then there was Model 3, which had your upgraded higher resolution system. It would also play the originals and the new higher res games. So think your Xbox One X to your Xbox One.
Right.
So this has been going on for a long time.
New 3DS, if you will.
Yeah, PS4 Pro to PS4, same thing. Even back then in the early 80s. So, however, in late 82 into 83, a few things happened to Mattel. They had their massive expansion. They hired their thousands of employees, right? They had an extremely aggressive expansion. So there was a number of things happened here. They opened an expansion in Taiwan, right? Which was pretty much dedicated to the Asian market and developing games for the Apple II computer, right? So developing Mattel games. So getting they also opened a division in France for the European market and dedicated to making games on Coleco. And
Weird.
then the startup of what they called the M Network, so Mattel Network, which was a group dedicated to making Mattel games on Atari, Coleco, and PC. So the M Network had their devs in Taiwan and France. So that was all called the M Network, right?
Right.
Last to mention was the ECS, the Entertainment Computer System. This was your system to help developers develop games for the Apple II, the IBM computers, in an effort to capitalize on the PC gaming market. However, RAM prices dropped drastically, and even the Commodore 64 dropped its price to compete in the market. And that's what created the quote-unquote flood of games, right?
Right.
Just too much, too quick kind of situation. And then games being pumped out without any quality control. And Mattel, as you can see, with 1, 2, 3, 4 groups just developing games with a bunch of 20-year-olds, you can kind of assume they're not going to be up to snuff, you might say.
Would you say that it's the past equivalent of the eShop now? Boom, fire. I said it.
Oh.
Quantity over quality. They're just pumping shit out.
Kind of like shovelware on the Wii, in a way as well.
Yes. There's another way.
Yeah. You could make the comparison, absolutely. You're just trying to get this demand market and just getting whatever you can out in time as quick. The Steam flooding of games is another good example. The whole Greenlight project, good idea, bad execution, which has now led to the Epic Game Store becoming a sought-after idea and thing for developers. No?
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the problems. There's two that comes up constantly with the Intellivision. A, the games are really tough to understand without an instruction manual.
Yes. To be fair, they probably came with a very detailed manual back then, so people actually probably read them.
They did, and you can look these up online, and I highly recommend it.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's very needed, for sure. And B is the controller itself. It's a number pad, 0 to 9, a clear button, an enter button, and then there's 4 buttons on the sides that kind of function as well. And that's another thing about the Model 2. Instead of having the kind of rubber sides, you had they turned them into plastic, so they weren't comfortable to hold anymore. And welcome to everyone in the chat, especially I'm Nares over on Mixer.
Hello, friend.
Hello, friend. So the most notable strange button is the spinning disc button on the bottom of the controller. That's probably the most notable thing about the Intellivision controller itself. Then most games came with this neat-looking overlay artwork that you'd put over the top of the number pad on the controller. That would help understand kind of what game you were playing and what buttons do what. So, what'd you think of the overlay option?
I mean, like when it existed or when I played.
Either or. How about both?
Well, because I emulated these, so spoiler. Honestly, the overlay, that's really the only way to know how to play, and it's not really intuitive because you'd have to constantly keep looking down to see if you're even hitting the right button.
At first, absolutely. Every time. Yeah,
it was not easy, and there was no real... I remember from working in a game store, we used to, when we tested everything, there's no real universal like layout for games. Like when you play a shooter, generally, the triggers are going to be your fire. Generally, like circles, your crouch, they kind of are vaguely the same. But when it came to like Intellivision, it was just all bets are off, man. Like whatever works, you're going to find the button eventually, I guess, make it happen.
Yeah.
And there were just too many buttons for such simple games it's no wonder. Like I couldn't click with it. I'm a simple man.
Yeah, and that's what separated Atari from Intellivision. Atari was easy to understand for anybody and everybody, right? With Intellivision,
Right.
it almost felt like they were trying to do too much all the time. And with so many different developers, or seemingly every game out there, like a different guy would make a different game, he would have his own layout, right? That's why those overlays were so necessary. Now, the added artwork I thought was quite neat. I think that was nice. That's kind of your little artwork designer. He had a lot to do with games.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I found two things that was interesting. System was known for the games getting jammed often in the cartridge slot.
Yeah,
so
it was a tight fit.
Yeah, that was attributed to a lot of whether it was molding that came across as defective, or they would use a number of different molds. So wherever the particular Intellivision game was made, it wouldn't have the same mold as, say, a different game, right? So that's why they would get jammed a lot of the time. You kind of had to snug it in every time. It wasn't just that, like your NES, where you just go, right?
We actually took like a Dremel, and we actually widened Intellivision ports by request at the store.
Yeah, there you go.
And it worked.
Yeah, just fine. Little zzz out of there. Perfect. I found that most games, however, used the 2 and 8 button. You know, the top and basically bottom one. Not the 0. That would have been too easy, right? It was always the 2 and 8.
That would make too much sense. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? And then the side buttons. So I like the idea of the side button, because they both did the same thing, right? Depending on the game. But it was for left-handed people and right-handed people. Good idea. Yeah. Because a right-handed person's going to hold it. You know, think of you holding your mug, right? The handle's on the right-hand side if you're right-handed. Right?
Yes.
You're not, if there was a handle on the other side...
It, obviously left.
Excuse me? Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's fine. Even if you had a handle on the other side, you're not going to use it. So in concept, it might look a little funky, but it works just the same. And then here's something interesting. 2 of their best-selling games were Las Vegas Blackjack and Poker, or Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. I'm sorry, that sold 1.9 million copies. And Major League Baseball sold 1.08 million copies, which what, you know, in today's terms, that's not a lot, right? But back then, in a small market and a flooded market, nonetheless, that's a lot. That's a lot of copies.
I believe the Las Vegas was a pack-in, though. No.
For the Model 1, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I always feel like those numbers are fudged. Like, you can't really count, can you? I know they do, but I feel like that's like investment, like numbers, like fluff up, you know, like when people say Wii Sports is wonderfully selling, I'm like, yeah, but
it came with the Wii.
Was it? Yeah, so it's like, do you really count that?
So, and then there was at first there was no packing game for the Model 2 and 3, and eventually a number of packing games did come in with it. So take that for what it's worth. But Major League Baseball being at 1.08 million, that's very interesting. It's funny how sports games are always the most successful on systems. Always.
I mean, that trend's never died because Maddens make great coasters.
Launch titles were ABPA Backgammon, your board game, Armor Battle, the tank mission one, the Electric Company Math Fun.
Wow. Please, my panties can only get so wet.
Right? That was with their educational direction. And I'm Nares. How are you on the fine day? I am doing well. It's a nice little Sunday. And then Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. So those were launch titles. Not bad. Not bad. You had a good little variety there, I would say.
Something for everyone if you like Armor Battle. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't. It would get Mom to buy it.
Sure, because Mom would want to play it as well, right?
Right.
That's the
but
idea.
like, I don't know. As like the kid, I'd be like, well, Armor Battle sounds cool. Yeah.
So the history of Intellivision was quite interesting to just research on a basic level. I found some good little tidbits in there, which was in. Even later, when they went down in '90 and they had to shut everything down, they started because they were such a tight group of people, because they lived, breathed in Mattel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Intellivision, that they all became such close friends, and a lot of them started up a website. It's down now, where it was, think of like a forum site, and they talked about the making of Intellivision games, how it was to work there, the conditions, meeting standards, meeting deadlines. You know, I wish it was still up. The Video Game Crash book only says so much about Intellivision. It kind of focused on Commodore 64 and Atari mostly.
Right.
So I'd be very interested in getting that Intellivision book to get what happened and all that. And the reception of this website and forum site got such good feedback, and the fan base was still there for Intellivision so hard that those developers got together yet again, because they still had a lot of licenses for most of their games, and they created what is now known as Intellivision Lives. It was a compilation of many popular Intellivision games. Naturally, some licenses went out, such as the Pac-Man and Dig Dug and a couple others. They're more successful ones, just because they were some of the few third-party made games. But I was
gonna say the Intellivision Lives, that compilation. I think that pretty much, just a side note, covers mostly everything that's worth playing on that system.
Yeah, it kind of does. And it's definitely. I have a GameCube copy of Intellivision Lives, and most of the games we're going to talk about here, of our 8 games, you can play on that.
Yeah.
So really cool.
There was a small plug and play for Intellivision when like they were really big, and I remember it, like that was my first exposure to it, and all it had were sports games. So man, what a disappointment.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
And you want to talk about bad D-pads. That thing was like, when you look at like a square, essentially, there's 3 on the top, 3 in the middle, 3 on the bottom. So take out that middle piece, and that's your D-pad. It's just this ring of arrows, and I was like, oh, this sucks. Oh yeah. Go Intellivision.
I have a few separate experiences with the Intellivision, and so the first one was when I was a kid, and my uncle had both an Atari wood panel and an Intellivision, and it was a Model 2, I believe, because when I saw the picture of the Model 2 being its little white and red kind of thing going on, I remember those. They were both in his closet collecting dust, and we busted them out. We played a bunch of games. The Intellivision was very fascinating. Yeah, he had a bunch of sports games, as he does. Graphically, the Intellivision was very superior, right, to anything else in the market. It had the best, the best technology in the system, and its marketing campaign what had a lot to do with, think of Sega and Nintendo, right? Intellivision would just put a side-by-side picture of, this is an Atari baseball game, this is our baseball game, and it looks so much better, and it plays essentially the same way once you figure out how to control it. Of course, that's the most difficult part. And that takes a lot of people away. So that was my first experience. I was like, I don't know how to play, but once we did, I was like, this is way better, right? That was just as a kid. My second experience was way later, when I was living in Canada, and I went to New Brunswick on a business trip with a fellow colleague, and we went into a a barcade. They had a side room of all those early 80s consoles. They had an Atari on one side, a ColecoVision on another, and Intellivision on one other. And it was so fascinating to play those games in that environment. Like, there was barely anybody back there, like 2 other people, while everyone else was playing, the big arcade machines. So, again, played Major League Baseball on the Intellivision. Played a couple others, but Major League Baseball on the Intellivision was very fun. It was very responsive and easy to get into. 2-button does this, 8-button does that, So that was cool. And then my third experience was now, of course, playing the Intellivision Lives and playing with friends at the video game place that I went to. Because I was like, I went there and I go, hey, I got to play Intellivision games. I'd like to play the original console. You guys have that here. And I can talk about it on the cast. Yeah, sure. We never get to bust this thing out. So I played with a couple of friends some of these games. Well, do you have any experience at all with playing with the console or even a plug-and-play console? I mean, you mentioned the plug-and-play just a second ago.
Yeah, beyond that, I briefly played at a friend's house. Beyond testing it at a retro store, which is always a pain because, again, like I said, you had to hit buttons and see what worked. Honestly, my biggest exposure is the Intellivision Lives compilation. That's really it, and that's how I mostly play anything pre-NES. Like, if it's got a compilation, that's as far as I want to take it, because those are the games worth playing. Everything else kind of got lost in the due to time, because most of them are kind of overly complex for how simple they were.
To an extent, absolutely. So
yeah,
that's Intellivision in a nutshell. With I hope you guys learned learned a thing or two. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to talk about these 8 games because they're very simple. And so with that, I will play the drop. We'll get going, Kevin. What do you say?
Yes, sir.
All right. I played the Street Fighter death music.
Aww.
Oh man, look at all these people from Mixer coming in. Aqua Blue Husky. Look at that. And a new follower. Look at that timing. Fantastic. Right into when we're talking about all the Intellivision games itself now.
Hello, friend.
Hello, friend. Aqua Blue Husky. You're a scholar. If you're an anime fan, definitely head on over to Twitter at BowlingJD, find the pinned tweet, and you can enter our contest for a High Dive gift card. Streaming site out there. That simple little link. You just log in with Google or YouTube, however, and simple, and get a nice little contact. You'll be entered. We have a lot of entries. I think we're up to 182 total entries, with 7 possible ways of entering. So,
ooh.
Yeah, we're getting good reception on this one. So, Evan, we both picked 4 games, 4 Intellivision games.
What a struggle it was.
Yeah. So because a lot of Coleco and Intellivision tried to copy a lot of Atari games. The goal I had in mind was to focus more on games Intellivision itself / Mattel developed, right?
Which I was busting your balls about, but honestly, it would have came to Pac-Man on this, I guess.
So, wanted to avoid games more well-known with the other systems rather than Intellivision. So, no Donkey Kong, because that's Coleco, right? No Pac-Man, because that's Atari. So,
well, that's in everything. To see that one, I wanted to see how the disc worked. That's why I wanted to do that one.
Yeah. Well, I get that they're popular and it's on everything, but this if we ever do an Intellivision 2 cast, then we can start seeing how these other games compare,
Right.
Yeah.
I guess.
So, hopefully this episode does very well, and we could even do a a console wars of like Intellivision versus Intellivision, Coleco, and Atari all against each other. You know?
Ooh,
That would be interesting. Who?
I like where you're thinking with this.
Yeah. A similar thing we want to do with like Nintendo, Sega, and TurboGrafx, right?
Right.
Hint for episode 50.
Are you trying to get the people to incite a riot?
Yeah, this should be fun. I love console wars. Console wars in the early 80s is just a fascinating thing with the whole crash. So my first game, let's get into this. My first game, if you couldn't guess, all these games are available on the Intellivision. I didn't look up ports because, let's face it, I'm sure they were ported everywhere at some point, you know, down the road. So my first one was called Shark. It runs for about $15, developed, published by Mattel, released 1982. And this is going to be something that's going to come up when I was able to find it. Designed by. And certain names were always together with this. So Shark was designed by Don Daglow, with additional design and programming by Ji-Wen Sao. So you can, based on these names, kind of assume, this person was probably in the Taiwan division or something. But Ji-Wen Sao was one of the first female game programmers in the history of video games. Fun fact.
Nice.
And this game was very simple. You start as a small fish. You eat other fish, or creatures of the deep that are smaller than you, to gain points, and you eventually grow in size when you eat enough. All the way until you can eat the shark itself. Ooh.
I believe this goes by many names. You might know it as something like Feeding Frenzy.
Yeah.
This was a game I like, and I can never find a way to play it because there's always so different names for it. It's like a random flash game more than like you'd ever see on like a console.
Sure.
But man, this was addicting. I like this kind of game.
This was a lot of fun. This was great. Yeah. I do remember having an experience in the computer lab at school playing, you know, a variation of Shark, and just being totally addicted. You know, like Javanoid was the original Arkanoid, you know? Or I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Javanoid was Arkanoid.
Right. I know what you were going for.
Yeah. So Shark was how addicting is it on a scale? Because if I'm talking about games from the early 80s, I think of addicting, the arcade loop, and how it looks.
It was addicting. It's something you could pick up and play. Like, I see this being, here's a common theme I'm gonna go by. I see it being a great mobile game nowadays. Mm-hmm. You know, pick it up. I'm waiting for somebody to, you know, I'm dropping my girlfriend off at the bathroom. All right, I'll wait out here while you do that. And I'd play this for like 2 minutes, die, and be like, all right, well, that was fun. You know, it's easy pick up and play. Am I going to sit down and dedicate myself to get 9,999 points? No. But it's fun. I'm not going to take that away from it. And I like this variation where you had to avoid the shark the whole time. That was a little different. Normally, that's kind of something that pops up way later. But it was a fun game. I'd pick it up, turn it on. The only complaint I'd have is like being the Intellivision graphics the way that they were. It was kind of hard to tell, like, some things. Am I bigger than this? Am I? And I kind of had to take a gamble until I really learned like how big I had to be. Like I think they were jellyfish. They were supposed to be. There was a time when like I'm the same size. Can I make it? I guess not.
You got to take its tentacles into account.
Right.
That's the trick.
Yeah, it's fun. Other than that minor annoyance, yeah, I'd pass it.
Oh, it's an easy pass for me. I liked that whole. I don't think it's a graphics thing. I think because you can't quite tell if you're bigger. You're like, oh man, do I want to risk it? Situation. No. Okay, I'll do it later when I know I'm definitely bigger. Situation. I like that.
But you want to get them points.
You want to get them points, and that creates a good loop. Yeah, Shark, easy. You can play this on Intellivision Lives. There you go.
There you go.
I played.
Yeah. So the problem is these games are so simple. I'm worried that we're not going to have like so much to say about them. It's just kind of like it's a game. It's a good game.
The crabs and lobsters was nice. There was a good variation in what creatures were there. You're on one screen. It's fine. But yeah. All right. So my second pick, something that's near and dear to my heart, not the game, but the franchise itself. It is Masters of the Universe, The Power of He-Man.
Man runs around in singlet.
It runs for about $11, and we're talking about the cartridges themselves, because we're a retro gaming cast, right? This one is.
Yes.
Later ported, I use that loosely, to the Atari 2600 under Mattel's M Network brand, which we spoke earlier in the history thing. So I wasn't able to confirm that the people at Mattel had two different developers, one for the Intellivision version and then one in the M Network, because as far as I could tell on the history, the M Network were different developers compared to the people at Mattel developing Intellivision games at their main base, right? I wasn't able to confirm that for this game. I just have a theory that it was different people developing for the Atari and the Intellivision copies, because they did come out in the same year. So this one, Masters of the Universe, was designed by Mike Sanders and Joseph Wagner, 2 S's in Joseph. First thing that pops out, Kevin, is this game has sick music.
Yes, it does.
It's just sick music. Yes.
Yeah, I was jamming a little.
Very nice. And that's a theme in the Intellivision. Not only were the graphics better and very colorful, the music was great, and that attributes to the higher quality components that were in the console itself. It was able to pump out these sick tunes.
Technically a 16-bit system, by the way.
It is technically a 16-bit system. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Suck it, Genesis.
Yeah.
This I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure it's been said before. This is Defender.
To an extent.
It's pretty much Defender. Minus those very quick sections where you're chasing, I think that's Skeletor around.
Yes, it is Skeletor.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know it is, but it's like, that's not what he looks like. But
hey, he's a blue skeleton-looking guy. That is for sure Skeletor.
I am not nice. It was a fun game. This had an addicting little loop. I eventually did get bored with it though. It kind of just, I was doing the same thing over and over again, and the loop wasn't very long. But it was a pretty fun game. I don't know. But beyond the music, like, am I motivated to really keep going? Again, probably would be a cool mobile game one day.
Well, it's all these games are pick up and play. That's the idea, right? Short bursts. You're not into the long 8-hour hauls that we're into these days, right?
Because them controls, man.
Yeah,
picking up and playing is not easy.
The controls in this one were a bit flimsy on how you can control the ship, and then later He-Man himself. The game consists of 2 levels. You're in He-Man's ship called the Wind Raider, and you're shooting oncoming fireballs, and then you quote-unquote capture as many Skeletors on the bottom of the screen by dropping nets. They're nets. I thought they were like bombs and you're exploding the ground, but if you look closely, when the little white square drops on the ship and hits the ground, it expands, right? And the expansion catches a Skeletor. Why you're catching more than one Skeletor, we'll never know.
Right.
But the overall goal is to get to the finish by going right without running out of fuel. You can slow down and go left to increase your points, but you run the risk of running out of fuel or getting hit by a fireball. So think of your side-scrolling shooters where you can go backwards as well as forwards. To me, there was never really a sense to ever go left. because you want to go right and get to the goal. That'll get you to your other level, second level, where it's Skeletor's. It has a neat little cutscene of he's escaping on foot. It has a little musical tune to it, like and he goes into not so much Castle Grayskull, but Skeletor's castle. You know, with the big skull on it, which I was like, hey, look at those, look at them graphics.
I will say that was pretty impressive for, like, I just wasn't ready for that to be that detailed for an Intellivision. I was like, see where all the art went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get into the castle, there's Skeletor's on the far right of the screen, and He-Man starts on the left, and Skeletor's just pumping what I think are fireballs at you, just moving left, right? And what's interesting is with a lot of these old games, they're usually like one-hit kill systems. Well, in this, you just have a timer that ticks down, and when you get hit by a fireball, or Skeletor himself, who's blocking you like a fullback in football from getting to the end line.
Sports ball, yes.
Sports ball, indeed. You'll get knocked back by the fireballs. You won't die. Time will go count down quicker for a few seconds each time you get hit. Or you can use a shield to not get knocked back, but you still lose time.
Right.
So then when
sorry, go ahead.
So when you get to the far right and you pass Skeletor, they get in a nice little sword duel. And eventually Skeletor's like, fuck this, and he runs away. The music plays and it goes on next level.
Yeah, I found using the shield was almost like essential. I never really tried to dodge him. I just figured, lose a couple seconds, but I'll just go straight.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I kind of found like that, like avoiding was almost pointless. I mean, I guess you're gonna do it, but
yeah,
it was a simple little loop. Yeah, it was a simple little loop. I don't hate it. It's just it was pretty good.
I quite enjoyed this. It wasn't bad at all. It did wear out its welcome much faster than, say, Shark.
Right.
But this is definitely a pass still, nonetheless. Yeah, you can't play that because of licensing rights. Naturally, because He-Man, Master of the Universe. Yeah, it's not on the Intellivision Lives, so yeah, you're gonna have to get it some other ways. Unfortunately, luckily the game store I had a copy. Oh, Shark! You can play with more than one person, by the way, which is nice.
Yes,
so you're competing. Mention that. Yeah, I really liked He-Man, and as soon as I saw the ship, I knew. I was like, oh my god, I'm in the Wind Raider situation. There's that bitch Skeletor on the bottom. I'm gonna capture his. I'm gonna drop a bomb on his ass, even though they're nets.
Damn, talking a lot of shit to Skeletor.
Yeah, I got a nice little fuzzy feeling on that. Masters of the Universe was a good childhood cartoon of mine. That and Thundercats. So this really hit a good soft spot with me, and it's honestly, I think it's a good game based on a TV show, cartoon situation.
Neat.
Did it pass for you?
Oh yeah, it passed. But I gotta say something when I give these passes. They're passes, but am I gonna go out of my way to play them? No. They're still good. But like, if I'm probably not going to revisit both of those so far.
You did say right away that going pre-NES doesn't tickle your fancy at all. So
true. So keep that there.
All right. A third game is a little game called Diner, and this runs for about $33. It's
very expensive.
Yeah, there's a reason for it, I might add. Developed by Real Time Associates, published by INTV, so we're now post 1984 acquisition of the Intellivision rights. So now we're in INTV territory. Released in 1987, Kevin. Way later. Yeah. This is the quote-unquote sequel to Burger Time, sort of. The same name and characters were used from the old Data East rights, and due to non-recognition of this game by Data East, the game has never been re-released. This is the only way you can play Diner is via the Intellivision. It's not on Intellivision Lives.
Right, because they wouldn't allow it.
Wouldn't allow it. I wasn't able to find the designer of this, so my theory is it was made by the same guy who did the Masters of the Universe game, because this was this specific game was made off the prototype of the Masters of the Universe game, which I'm very curious to how, like, what they took from that game to make this one, because this one reminded me nothing of Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I'm watching. How does that relate?
Yeah,
at all.
This is fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so this is fun. Your objective is you are Peter Pepper, so just from like Burger Time. You must kick all the balls of food around the board back down onto the plates. By balls of food, they look like meatballs, essentially. So you avoid the quote-unquote rotten food coming to kill you, sort of like zombies, but they're food. So you have like a pepper attacking you and whatnot. And there's a simple mechanic that you have to get down, and that is to lure enemies and not get cornered.
Yes.
And
same deal at Burger Time.
Yeah, an extent. Absolutely. The difference here is you're on this like pseudo isometric 3D environment board with stairs and the like going up and down instead of just ladders like Burger Time was. You know, Burger Time was very flat. This is very isometric-ish. And you can kick the little meatballs, balls of food, into the enemies for mad points. That was very satisfying. You lure them all in like a line, then you kick the food, and you just hear the ting, 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 beep, beep, beep. Your points just go up like thousands.
It's almost as sad. I don't know what's more satisfying is whether you lure in Burger Time or kicking them down this ramp and everything just kind of got like knocked. You know, it was just.
Yeah, you're just like brushing the shoulder off. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at Diner.
In one kick, brah. Did you see that shit?
So you doing anything after this or no? Okay, cool.
Hey, babe, you want? I just used my spicy pepper to avoid getting killed. You want to take this in the bedroom?
Why are you calling the cops? Why do you have mace?
No, we're just playing Diner, officer. I swear. Yeah, I really appreciated bringing back the pepper mechanic. You can freeze enemies and run by them in case you get caught. Naturally, you have a limited amount, but that was a good little ad.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah. Upon level completion, the screen scrolls to the right direction as Peter celebrates. Really simple, like chiptune. And after every fourth level, this is what I didn't like about this game, because I was really into this. After every fourth level, there's a falling food gauntlet bonus stage, right? It says bonus stage. However, this is where it gets bad. If you get a food ball that's flashing, the bonus round doesn't just end. You also lose a fucking turn.
I hate games that do this, by the way.
Death. I'm like, what? That's bullshit. That part, yeah. Like if that specific, like I'm okay with the bonus round coming to an end, right? That's your punishment for getting the. You don't fucking die on a bonus stage.
A lot of games around this time did that though, like up until like Super Nintendo.
Oh, doesn't make it okay with me.
I didn't say it was good. I think it's a terrible idea. In fact, it made me not want to like try in the stage. I was like, well, I'm gonna die here anyway.
Yeah.
So,
you know, think of Shinobi on the Master System, game we've covered on the cast. You get to
love that.
When you get to a bonus stage in that game, yeah, it's hard as shit, and you lose, but you don't fucking die. The game's hard enough as it is, right?
Right.
Imagine if the game punished you by not surviving the bonus stage. That really lost me on Diner. It's a real shame that this game's never been re-released. Because I think with the success of Burger Time, this game being as late as it came out and its only release. It's no wonder it's $33, right?
Yeah, but I mean, with all that being said, like that bonus stage only being on Intellivision, I'd personally rather just play Burger Time.
Well, I mean, that's the alternative, right? You don't need to play Diner.
Yeah. So I mean, am I losing anything only playing Burger Time? Honestly, no. I could have lived without playing Diner or experiencing it. I'm gonna pass it, but soft pass.
Before death on the bonus round, this was my favorite game. I am passing it. Just whenever I got to those bonus levels, I would actively not want to get points just because I was afraid of death and I wanted to keep playing.
Right.
So, whether that's me being a pussy or not, I'll let the listeners decide.
Bitch.
All right, so my fourth and final game, and I had to choose one of them, was B-17 Bomber.
And that was the most interesting part of this game.
It runs for about $6, developed and published by Mattel, released 1982. One of the few games that was programmed to use the Intellivoice modulator, so the game would talk to you. And why did I say B-17 Bomber like that? Well, that's because that's how the Intellivoice would say the title. This is basically an early flight combat sim game. At its crux. It's very simple. But very complicated at the same time.
It's too much on the screen. I got to the overworld where I saw all those icons on what I think is Europe, and I was like,
No, it's definitely Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have any idea what to do. I barely got started. So, good luck.
So, you get in a plane right away. It's this first-person viewpoint. And you get east, west, north, south, and you want to even out the plane, right? And it's going in a direction. You can change to so you're in this first-person view of the plane. You can change to a number of different screens. You can change to the map of Europe, which has a bunch of icons on it, which your objective is to bomb and fuck up all the icons, right? So there's there's various things you can bomb and shoot, such as oncoming planes, barracks, anti-ground to air guns, etc. Things like that. What ends up happening is the Intellivoice. I found it worked surprisingly well and enhances the game experience because, let's say you pass a certain point and a plane's coming from behind. The Intellivoice will say, "Plane, 6 o'clock." So then you change the viewpoint to look behind you, and there's a plane behind you, and then you can try and shoot the plane down before it shoots you down. That was real cool. I really like that. Like, that's using this extra little module to its advantage. So instead of like freaking out and always checking your 6 or your west or your east, the Intellivoice is, think of like a radio operator who's got your back, right? I thought that was really cool. So excellent. Like, that was excellent. Now, controlling the plane itself was really tedious, and you weren't sure when you were going to hit the ground. Really tough to avoid the oncoming fire from the ground and stuff. It felt real cheap at times. So as ambitious as this game was, I didn't really fully enjoy it to the extent I was kind of going into it thinking I was going to enjoy it. What'd you think? Because you had a hard time playing it in the first place, right?
Yeah, I really didn't get far. I couldn't figure out how to control the plane. I didn't know what I was doing. There was nothing.
Yeah.
Again, I was emulating it, so I didn't really get the voice.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a bummer. That's gonna make the game immediately harder.
You almost need it to play it. So I don't know. It wasn't for me. This is the one I'm gonna fail right now.
That's fair.
It was too simple, while at the same time being way too fucking complex.
Yeah. I figure we had to pick an Intellivoice game for sure.
Yeah.
But I really liked the voice modulation in this. It was really cool how it was implemented. And before I played any of these games, I looked up an instruction manual on how to play them. That was nice. That saved tons of time and frustration. Would it have been more funny if I'm like, how do you fucking play this? Well, that's where you come in, Kevin.
Look, man, I did what I could, okay?
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna fail B-17 Bomber. As cool as the voice modulator was in this game, just not for me, and it felt too cheap at times.
Right.
Kevin, what was your first pick? As we go into our fifth game.
Pick was appropriate game with a cute little ass penguin because I love penguins. It's Thin Ice for the Intellivision. Quirky little arcade game where you play as Duncan the Penguin, who enjoys skating on thin ice, especially around other penguins. So pretty much the goal of this game is to do that, skate around penguins, connect lines, and you make the ice fall through to the water and clear the level as you do to get rid of all the penguins. There's a game, is it Kicks? I believe it's called Kicks or Jezball or something like that, if you ever played it on Windows. Yeah, pretty much just make these lines connect and clear the board as much as you can. It's a simple premise. I kind of think it's a little messed up that this penguin's trying to kill all of his friends, personally.
Well, he's just being a bully.
Yeah, he's pretty much an asshole, actually. But it just keeps getting more complex and more. You try to make the longest line you can to get more points to cover more of a square.
Yep.
And the enemies move on to the next little puzzle, and yeah, there you go. Simple little game.
It's very simple. So this was developed by Mattel, published by INTV Corporation. So there you go. So kind of a mix, develop to publish situation. So they hadn't gone full. I mean, they were full INTV, but there were still remnants of Mattel left. And it came out in 1986. So late, right? Late in the lifespan. Runs for about $20, and I couldn't figure out why it was that expensive compared to a lot of the others. Because you can play this on the Intellivision Lives. How I played it.
I think it was just one of the better games, and
for sure.
Yeah.
I fell in love with this. I never wanted to put it down. There's a evil seal and polar bear along the level. The seal's super fast. The trick is to get what they call shrimp cocktails. They look like McDonald's French fries, and that will increase your speed to get away from the seal. You kind of want to save those when the seal gets on your ass, because then eventually, if you avoid the seal long enough, he'll get kind of pissed off and shake his head. He's like, I can't get him.
Yeah. And they destroy your lines too, so
yes,
you really got to avoid them.
Yeah, it helps to move across the water that you've dumped the ice squares out of. That'll help you avoid the seal just a little bit longer. So that was cool. I at first when I played it, I thought falling in the water was going to be an instant death, but it using logic, hey, penguins can fucking swim. It was nice.
Yeah. So. Neat little game. I'd pass it. I'll keep playing. This would be a great mobile game.
I wonder how it would work.
It would.
I guess you would just run your finger around the screen all the time.
Just swipe it. Like he'll keep going left till you swipe down, then swipe up.
Yeah, I suppose that could work. Yeah. It's the same concept for sure. Yeah. What did you think about?
Thin Ice was cool.
What was your reaction when you ran into the polar bear for the first time?
Okay. I was very scared. I actually, that's pretty much the sound I made. I'm not even lying. I was like, no.
When I ran into him, I was like, did that guy just fucking punch me?
Yes.
Like, boom! You just character flies left or right, all the way across.
Polar Bear's an asshole in that game.
I really like the little animation of the seal, like putting you the penguin on his nose and then flipping you off like the circus act. That was a nice little touch.
It was a good little, like, I honestly I could see if only we were in 2006 again, like this would be on the like Xbox Live Arcade as like a little like summer arcade thing and be like download. I could see it with like bubbly graphics. That might be a little thing that they should do.
Upgrade.
It would have been a great Vita game. God damn it, Sony.
Well, that brings up an interesting point with the supposed new Intellivision console coming out. I wonder if they're gonna have a lot of these old Intellivision games kind of, upgraded with what you just said, and add a few things.
Well, the controller is touchscreen, so I can see that control screen kind of working the way I described it, but I forgot that thing was coming out.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'll be keeping my eye on it for sure. Not unlike the that Atari thing that's coming out, which has been delayed. Who saw that coming?
I literally saw the news of it getting delayed. I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Who cares?
None of us believed it was going to make its date. None of us believed it.
Yeah.
All right. Easy pass for Thin Ice. I vastly enjoyed this game so much.
Yeah, so far this is my favorite game on the list, by the way.
All right. What's next?
So, that's cool. A game that I feel the opposite about. Thunder Castle. Let me read first. Developed by Mattel and published by INTV, our favorite, released in 1986. The object of this game is to grab an item that gives the player temporary invincibility and use it to kill pretty much everything on the screen. Yep. I think about 11 enemies. My notepad's cut off. 3 levels. Kind of in that simple loop of just. It's almost Pac-Man-y, I guess you could describe it.
Yeah, in a way.
Very Pac-Man-y. I just feel like the enemies are just too big, almost. Like Pac-Man, the ghost kind of took up one singular space. This kind of has an, what's the word I'm looking for? Like an expanded, I can't think of the word. Just too big of enemies, so it kind of made the mazes hard. Honestly, it was just a slower paced Pac-Man to me, and I'd rather play Pac-Man.
Yeah, I definitely see the Pac-Man comparison for sure.
Yeah, and the maze can block you off at times, so you got to make sure you don't get stuck. It's okay. I really just want to play Pac-Man after this instead. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah, there's 3 levels you go through. You have outside the castle. You're in like shrubberies, in a maze type situation that constantly changes, which I thought brought in a different form of difficulty because you're trying not to get cornered.
Right.
And you're being chased by a giant dragon. And the objective there is to get the bat that's flying around, and that'll make you invincible. When you beat 3 dragons, and they go up in difficulty / speed, you end up inside the castle, and that's where you can get a mouse. And same concept. The walls are changing because the whole instruction manual is like the wizards are constantly changing the layout inside the castle. Can you defeat the wizards with your helpful animals? So this is referencing the mouse, and then your 3rd level is the castle dungeon, in which you get a skull. So it's like apparently, I guess you're supposed to think it's like the lost remnants of an animal buddy or a fellow knight, right? And you defeat the demons inside. Same concept. The dungeons are constantly changing because the demons are bad. The game,
early, what's it called? Early roguelike, if you will.
Yeah, you could absolutely say that. In theory, this should be your favorite game, Kevin.
In theory, but just because you did it first doesn't mean it's the best.
If the character moved a bit faster, I agree, it would have been even more enjoyable. He was a little too on the slow side. I did find the game got way better after I looked up what each of the secondary items do. So you got like a crown, a necklace, those things, a candle that pop up around the level, and you have to get to them in time. And when you find out which one does which to help you avoid getting stuck, like I believe the necklace transports you to an open space to avoid getting trapped. So that's cool. So the items do pretty cool things that help you out, which I can't think of another game that really does anything like that, especially from the early to mid 80s. was definitely an ambitious title, I would say.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, ambitious is the right word, but I feel like a little more fine tuning and better design decisions, like faster character. It could have stepped it up from being meh to being good. It was very slow paced.
What I noticed is the more the years go on, you can kind of tell that the developers, programmers, were getting better and more inventive with the games and how to play them. Because in the 80 to 83, they were very simplistic, right?
Right.
And now we're getting games like Thin Ice and Thunder Castle Diner in the late 80s, and you're just like, wow, these are like the best, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They're getting good. I'm sure this game had an audience when it came out, but
it has a Dungeons and Dragons feel to it for sure.
Well, just because of knights and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The game runs for about $20, so it's a little bit more on the expensive side. But hey, it's a late 80s game, so that's the trend right now. Late 80s and television games. Even then, like
that's
the most
$100 NES game.
Yeah, right. I'm curious. I'm gonna look this up right now. What's the most expensive in television? As you talk about,
I was gonna say,
Thunder Castle. I played via the Intellivision Lives, and I give it a pass.
The thing is, it's not inherently offensive. I pass it. It's just, I don't know, it was boring.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I guess how you want to look at pass in this scenario.
So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Intellivision games over $100. The system changer that we spoke about earlier that can play the Atari games, that's $122. So you're better off just buying an Atari.
Yeah. Unless you're really low on space.
Well, I mean, there's what's the word? There's a charm to having it, but you'd have to also have the Intellivision 2 model, right? And that's like $70.
Which is hard to find.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So, just real quick, from the 109 is Mountain Madness Super Pro Skiing. I'd be very curious about that. Tutankhamun, so I guess a mummy game, Tutankhamun. That's 118. Stadium Mud Buggies, ATV game. That's 139. Learning Fun 2 is $200. I think we can live without that one. And then
my panties.
Biker Super Pro Volleyball runs for $900. $1,100 complete in box.
Okay.
Oh man.
Sure.
Why not, right?
I guess. Yeah. Why? Actually. So, well, okay.
There's a Scooby-Doo game that came out on the Intellivision?
Oh, no, it's not great. Trust me.
Oh, come on.
It's not great. Trust me.
Right.
Honestly, you would have no idea Scooby-Doo if it didn't say it on the box.
Aw, ruining
I played it before.
You played the Intellivision Scooby-Doo game before?
Somebody brought it in to test. Let me clarify that. I put the cartridge in and turned it on and went, what? And that was it.
Good story, bro.
Yeah, well, I give you what you asked for.
You're like, Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Scooby-Doo, why? Just why?
Why are you? What are you?
So, what are you doing here? I forgot that like Scooby-Doo was big around then because I remember watching it on like, Boomerang. And I forget Boomerang is not my time.
Oh, I loved Boomerang.
Yeah, good stuff on there.
Okay, what was your next game, Kevin?
The next game I picked was something so on the opposite end of the price spectrum.
Sure.
It was Motocross for the Intellivision, developed and published by Mattel in 1983, designed by Rick Koenig. I'm not going to try to pronounce that.
Koenig,
sure. basically, like you wrote, it's Excite Bike. Very, I was going to say simple, but very complex Excite Bike with trying to do the isometric view.
Yeah.
But it's just really, really slow, which I find is a common theme with Intellivision. I don't know if they were trying to compensate for the controller, but the game just moves really slow. It didn't feel like motocross at all. You can make your own tracks in this, but I don't think there's a way to save it, as far as I could tell. You can race other characters, but honestly, it wasn't really a race. It was kind of more like following a computer character that would freeze to stay where it was until you caught up to it. And it was just really not fun Excite Bike. So there was that. I don't know how you feel with it. I just kind of felt like this had potential. Like if they went faster and there was more speed to this game, again, like Thunder Castle, game could have been really good, but just way too slow.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they overprogrammed the game, if that's even a term you could use. Like tried too much and the system just couldn't keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does have enormous replay value with the custom track maker, right?
Right.
So that's that. Give credit where credit's due. That's a brilliant idea. Yeah, the note where the biker gets too far ahead, your opponent or you yourself, and the lead bike will then freeze in place, even in air, even just to let the back bike catch up. You know, and that's in order. And this was I did find a nice little article by Rick Koenig. He goes, it was so difficult to program two on the screen at the same time. You had to have them be on the screen at the same time no matter what. The technology wasn't there for like a zoom out option or anything. Nothing could handle it at the time. So he's on record saying like that was the most the idea was there, it just couldn't, it wasn't executed, wasn't able to be executed at the time, so that was disappointing. But nonetheless, there's even a CPU versus CPU gambling mode implemented in the game, so really get that addiction going.
Start them young.
Yeah, because there's a black rider and a red rider. It's like, I got 15 on black, boys.
That's probably going to be a fun drinking game.
That would be a ridiculous drinking game. So a friend of mine, when we were playing this game, we came up with kind of two challenges. We came up with the stopwatch challenge, right? Where if we were playing head to head, when one would get ahead, and as soon as you saw your character freeze, you would hit the stopwatch, hit the lap timer, and until you would start going again. You would time it, so whoever had the least amount of, or the most amount of time ahead by the end of the race, that was the true winner, right? Even if one passes another at the end, because there was no way to stay ahead, right? And the other way was to create a track and bike by your lonesome and just time that track. You'd switch off, Excite Bike-esque, because there was no timer on the screen.
Right.
So it's kind of filling in the gaps of the game that should have been there. A timer, I think, could have easily been implemented. You could just write down the time instead of doing it yourself. So, ambitious game, just not quite executed well enough. Motocross, unfortunately, as much as I like the idea behind it and what it did, it's a fail.
Yeah, very ambitious. You tried. I feel like the game it was so close, just speed it up a little bit. It would have been
very
fine.
Close. Yeah, it was just too slow, very sluggish in turning. The bikes can crash into each other, which was real cool.
Yeah. Well,
game only goes for about $6 anyways. It's on Intellivision Lives, so.
Yeah.
All right.
It's okay. Not great.
Our last game.
Our last game, which was Neo, and by Neo I mean I just kind of like the genre. It is pinball for the Intellivision, developed and published by Mattel. It's a very designed by Don Daglow, the guy that did Shark. So this is a like you wrote, basic idea of a pinball game. That being said, when I played this, I immediately started comparing it to Atari's pinball, which was terrible. So this game at least went for like the aesthetic one up. It looks better. There's a lot more things going on the screen. It kind of tried to represent a real pinball table, at least for that time. Whereas Atari was just like, here's squares, I guess. They tried to do dual flippers on each side, which kind of worked out. It was fine. I mean, I really didn't have any issues with it. But that being said, it's a very basic pinball game,
Yeah.
Not really a whole lot of goals because at the time pinball was just surviving. There weren't really ramps or goals to do. Is it the best pinball game in the world? No, but I would want it on my Intellivision. So I don't know how you felt about it. There's not so much to say, but it was an improvement by what else was out there at the time.
Yeah, I thought it was very colorful. I thought the sound effects were in accordance, which which made it feel like a pinball game. It felt like an advanced Arkanoid in a way.
Okay.
Because you had to take out blocks in order to get up to the next level / next pinball board, because there was 3 of them.
Right.
You didn't lose a turn until you got like knocked back to pinball board 1. I did find
Kirby, I believe it was like Kirby did that.
Yeah. There's a few. I think Devil's Chase. I think that's a TurboGrafx pinball game that has something. Might be getting the name very easily. I did find one cheap thing the game had a lot of, this pinball game, was when you hit the ball into a certain area and it comes out of a port, especially on level 1 there, it just shoots out and it goes right down the middle every time.
Yes,
so you have to use the tilt button option. It's like, and I was just like pumping every controller out. This was the one game I made the mistake of not looking up the instruction manual prior, because I'm like, it's pinball. How bad could it be, right? Well, I was then trying to figure out what the tilt button was, so you avoid. So that gives the game, at least this kind of a pinball game, a different sort of difficulty curve. Because if you know that if it's going to come out of this port every time and shoot down the middle, you have to time the tilt just right so it doesn't do that. As cheap as it is, it brings something else to the table rather than just thinking it's your standard pinball experience. And I do like the 3-board option.
Yeah, it wasn't, I guess that was kind of their way of simulating physics, because how are you going to do that on an Intellivision?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. Not the smartest idea, I guess, but, it's not perfect.
Yeah, Don Daglow seems to be one of the better designers for Intellivision games. So I'm definitely going to be looking up more of his games himself. It's funny how, we essentially picked games off this, and we got a couple of the same creators for these, and most of these were pretty good. Even a couple of bad. Now I'm sure there's a lot of stinkers out there who would want to play those.
True.
Right, but either one of these could have been easily bad. There's some interesting ones I would love to revisit for Intellivision. There's one where you like go through like the exoskeleton or the insides of a person, and you're trying to like fight viruses off inside the body.
Yeah, it doesn't go. I know what you're talking about. It doesn't go all the way down. It stops at like the pectorals.
It's okay. It's still interesting. Going through guts and brains and eyeball. There's a big eyeball side and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's and then there's like the Pac-Man version. There's the, not sure if a Donkey Kong game ever came out on the Intellivision. It wouldn't shock me.
I want to say yes, but
yeah, probably. So I'd be curious to see how the voice modulator would work with World Series Major League Baseball. I think that was the one. That one's like a $70 game, because it uses the modulator, and I think it uses another component to the Intellivision. That's why it's so expensive. It's like the only game that used one modulator. Limited release on top of it.
Yeah. And the system's not in high demand, so if you want to ever pick this up, really, it's not hard to find one.
No, and I think I would get the original, and then I'm sure I could find some eBay seller that's modded an Intellivision to play the Atari games with the module anyways.
You also got to find the right way to hook it up, because it's not EV ports. You're going to have to deal with that like RF thing. Good luck on HDTVs.
I'm sure people have modded that as well out there.
I'm sure they have. People are out there doing crazy things.
Yeah. But I have Intellivision Lives, and that gets me a good chunk. Apparently Dig Dug was an Intellivision exclusive for a while, and it was ported later after Mattel lost the license.
Weird. Never would have expected that, actually.
Yeah, that was an interesting fact. So, because that when I was looking up how did they come up with the idea of Intellivision Lives and what games went on it, they basically wanted to put all of the good Intellivision games on there, but they couldn't put the ones they couldn't put on there were the license expiration ones. And Dig Dug was asterisk of like, no, this was a third party exclusive to Intellivision. But then when Mattel and Intellivision went down, essentially, Dig Dug then went to other consoles. That's where it exploded in popularity. Yeah. So
missed out on a big one there, Mattel.
Well, it's like Donkey Kong with Coleco, right?
True.
That same concept. You don't associate Donkey Kong with Coleco anymore. You associate it with Nintendo.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So just to run through our 8 games right fast. We have Shark, Masters of the Universe, The Power of He-Man, Diner, B-17 Bomber, Thin Ice, Thunder Castle, Motocross, and Paintball. Kevin.
Yes.
My man. My lead guy.
Hey.
Favorite and least favorite.
Oh, what?
Favorite and least favorite, boy.
Oh, I thought you called me your favorite.
You can be my favorite. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, you said favorite, least favorite. Favorite game, it's going to be Thin Ice. I just thought that was really fun, addicting. Followed by a close second, Shark.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pick one or the other, but Penguins, zoom it out.
Sure.
Least favorite, just B-17 Bomber. I literally just couldn't get it to work the way I wanted to. I didn't know what I was doing. You literally need next time the game do what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of inconvenient. I did, when I was going over this before, I was telling JD, those games kind of bored me, and they did, but not bad. So if you appreciate things before the NES, this is a good selection of games to really go with. But, you just got to put your mind in that time frame.
Absolutely.
So
I'm glad you were pleasantly surprised by it all then, because I know you were kind of dreading this a little bit, but I'm glad you end up having fun. You don't have to play these games very long to get it, right?
Yeah, it didn't take a lot of my day to get that. It's no 3DO. I mean, so things are good.
I will admit, after doing this now and reminiscing a bit of my personal experiences with the Intellivision, the console and the games have a new place in my retro gaming heart. It really does. Because we did find some really fun games, as simplistic as they are, and I am in full agreement with you. Thin Ice was my favorite. I definitely played that the most out of any of them. It had the most variety with the enemies and everything, and as much as I wanted to like B-17 Bomber, flight combat sims just aren't really my thing, first of all, and then playing a game that just felt too cheap at times. Yeah, B-17 Bomber, IntelliVoice aside, that was my least favorite, followed by Motocross, probably, just because of how slow it was. That whole the biker situation. But after reading like how difficult it was to program at the time. I kind of gave it a leeway situation, you know. That's that mindset
sure.
going back. Like, look, these were all 20-year-olds fresh out of college being asked to make all these games when they had zero experience, right? And that's kind of also why I kind of I veered away from really harping on the controls a lot, because that was saved for, you know, you get in Intellivision, you're like, what the fuck is this immediately? So rather than just rinse and repeating that same complaint over all these games, I would definitely recommend, before you play any, probably ColecoVision game as well, any Intellivision game, look up the instruction manual and the controls first. That will save you a lot of time and frustration of this convoluted number pad controller. So,
agree.
Yeah. This was a really fun topic. It was a really fun console exclusive look back. I think if we're going to revisit, yeah, it would be like a console war situation, and I'd be very curious to look up what game, because we kind of missed out on this. I didn't realize until after we'd picked the games. No one picked games from the 80 and 81 era, you know, at the beginning of it all. Our earliest one was B-17 Bomber at 82. So Intellivision was the most successful in its earliest stages. And 83 was the downturn, right? So it's interesting now that we've covered all these games that we really liked the later releases rather than the ones that made it popular. Well, that's because they were more developed
and they were a little less simple of just do the same thing, you know?
Yeah. So
just kind of figured it out.
Just in my free time, I'm going to look up some 80, 81 releases, see what those are. I know the baseball one's probably that early one, and obviously the poker blackjack game is early as well. So I really enjoyed playing a lot of these with two people. You know, there was good friendly competition involved. I do recommend playing these games with somebody, because the 2-player option is in most of these games where you compete for score. And that's at the heart of the era, right? You gotta get that high score.
Dat score.
Well, okay. If you want to join a community, we have partnered up with Retro Twitch, so head on over there to join their Discord. Lots of great retro gaming fans over there. You can go hit them up on Twitter, RetroTwitch.com. Nice little link in their on their profile page to get into the Discord. Quite easy, very friendly. Always talking about whether it's speedrunning games, collecting games, finding deals on games, playing retro games. I throw in modern stuff talk all the time over there because everyone else is talking retro. And then naturally,
you're just like nerds.
Yeah, and then naturally hit up Anime Radicals. I was just on an episode, Timely Reviews, that came out over the movie Alita Battle Angel. So we talked about kind of the movie, how we felt on it, comparing between the anime OVA series and even the manga that it's based on. So
that was an anime. I knew it.
Oh yeah. Did you see the movie, like Kevin?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I do recommend it for an action flick purpose.
It just looked like something. I was like, why are her eyes so big? And then I put it together. Got it.
So go check out Anime Radicals. I hope to do more over there, as at least an episode a month I hope to be on over. So this has been Red Leaf Retrocast, Retro Gaming Edition, episode 40 over the Intellivision, and we already have our next topic chosen, our theme, and it's over time travel. So games featuring time travel. We got 6 games for that one. So we'll see you guys couple weeks. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Okay. Hey. 2 hours.
Export. Wait, I'm so fucking hungry.
Yeah, I'm pretty hungry. I really enjoyed that.
Exporter.
That was really, really fun.
I kind of hit you with a sneaky saying I didn't like this, but guess what? The games are okay.
Yeah, you did surprise me with that one.
On you. Pulled a little sneaky on you.
Yeah, there was a few other games I hit on in Intellivision Lives. Snafu was like competitive Snake. That was really fun. There was a bunch of different modes there.
I heard about that. I never
there was a few tank games that were super cool. Have you heard of Snafu?
I have.
Yeah, that's super fun. God,
I'm gonna lose you for 1 second because I'm gonna switch to my normal Wi-Fi now.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Fire.
Hmm.
All right. Did I lose you? Hope you're still there.
I'm still here.
Look at that.
All right. So, for the next couple episodes, I'm gonna be gone those weekends. So, we're gonna have to record on a Monday night after work, and I get out of work just like you guys now, so I'll be just as tired.
Yeah, I'll need a date just to make sure I don't have a something.
April 8th.
Okay.